excited. Thank you for joining us here. Welcome with me, Ben.
Thank you very much. So we are Bitwala, and we are building the world's first blockchain bank. So crypto is exploding. Probably you will realize that. It reached 140 billion market cap. But unfortunately, the traditional banking infrastructure that we need to grow as a community is far lacking behind. So if you're a Bitcoin startup, your life is not so easy. It's really hard to get a bank account. Often you have to re-domicile in another country, and then when you finally do find a bank account, it can shut you down overnight. So we have quotes here from some of the biggest Bitcoin startups on the market, and they've all had their banking pulled from them with very, very little warning. And we work with these partners, and so we often get messages, hey, we have technical problems or whatever, but we know what already happened. Their bank said, hey guys, I'm sorry, you can't do what you're doing anymore. How many people have taken a picture like this before? Okay, so for those of you who haven't, this is me KYCing myself the Poloniex exchange, and I have to hold my passport and a piece of paper with a date, and I have to get my face in there, and it has to be really well lit, which is why I look quite frustrated, because this was like the 5th or 6th attempt of like holding all of these things and making sure my finger wasn't covering any of my passport numbers or anything like that. And that's part of the reason that only 0.07% of the world is using cryptocurrency. It's not your traditional experience of online banking. It's not your traditional experience of Amazon, where you put something in your basket and then you use your credit card to buy it. It's still relatively messy. You need to sign up with an exchange, KYC yourself, send some money to a strange IBAN located somewhere in Gibraltar, wait for it to arrive, and then finally trade. So, who are we? So we started off 4 years ago solving the problem that Bitcoin can't be spent anywhere. Everyone's holding Bitcoin, everyone's saying it's really great, but you can't buy the things that you want to normally buy. And so we invented all for BTC. And this was a very, very simple project, which goes to show that you don't need a highly technical startup to make money. You just need a good idea. This was pretty much a web form where you paste in an Amazon link, you calculate the shipping fee and the price yourself, and then we give you a Bitcoin invoice, and then we will act as a shopping service where you can buy anything you want with Bitcoin. And it was a really simple idea, but it went really, really big, and we transferred over 1.5 million euros through this. And then people started to ask, hey, can I pay my Netflix subscription, like my Skype credit with this? And we said, well, not really, because that's not exactly what we do, and it's kind of difficult to like do services on your behalf. And so we came up with our next project, which was Bills to BTC, which became Bitwala. And we allowed people to pay their credit card bills, their rent, to buy a new flat. And this went really, really well. We opened up a Visa debit card, so people can spend on Amazon. People can make bank transfers all over the world, and we were taking lots of people's money in Bitcoin, sending it all over the world, and we were really, really happy. But then we realized we need to do KYC. And this isn't the first thing that you think of as an entrepreneur. You're not kind of thinking, hey, how can I restrict my customers from using my service? You're more thinking about how can I get more customers to use my service. And this was a real wake-up call for us, and we realized we had to get a little bit more serious. And you can see here with our service, you can send us up to 200 euros without doing anything. And then if you want to send up to 50,000 euros, you need to do a web ID, which is where you hold up your passport in a Skype call, more or less. And you say your name, you say your address, you confirm some data. And yeah, it's a little bit humiliating actually, because you're sitting at your desk and then you're holding up the stuff, and it's 2017, and the best we have is to do a Skype call and do kind of like a selfie with your passport. And so, after becoming Europe's leading provider of financial services for the crypto economy, we realized that we were only scratching the surface of the problem, and to do what we really wanted to do, which is completely eliminate the friction between the crypto and the fiat worlds, we had to go a step further, and that's why we decided to build a blockchain bank. So for businesses, it's very clear why we need to do this. If you're having your bank account pulled overnight, you are not going to open up a new startup which relies on banking services. So first and foremost, we will be a crypto-first bank which promotes crypto activity and provides a strong foundation for the nascent crypto economy. Secondly, all of your deposits are insured with us. So when you send money on an exchange, it's protected by some kind of e-money license, but it's not fully protected and it's not insured. So this will be a traditional, insured, fiat bank account, like Deutsche Bank or like number 26. And then finally, we have a KYC standard because we're a bank account. So when you register for a platform, often you have to share a document, like, for example, a printout from your bank, showing that this is a proof of address. In our case, we have that built in, because by the nature of being a bank, we have this KYC standard that can be used on third-party services. For individuals, we make buying and selling crypto really, really easy. So I mentioned before, you need to send your euros to the IBAN of the crypto account, of the crypto exchange, and then you can see in your balance, okay, now I have 1,000 euros and I can trade it. With us, you're sending the money from your bank account, which is a Bitwala bank account, to our bank account, which is also a Bitwala bank account. And that means that we can receive the money instantly. So you have, for the first time in the crypto space ever, an irreversible deposit of funds which happens instantly. The second advantage is that you can send your balance anywhere. So with a crypto exchange, you can only send your money, your euros back to you, to a bank account that you verified. And that's kind of frustrating because you have more steps. I want to send some Bitcoins to the exchange, sell them, then send the euros to me, and then send them to my landlord. Here, you can send the money anywhere straight from your bank account. And finally, when you're buying, you can hold your private keys. We don't require you to have a hot wallet hosted with us. You can just give us your Bitcoin key, public key, and then we will allow you to send money to that Bitcoin address. And then this is a little bit futuristic, but we need to talk about smart accounting. So at Bitwala, we believe that in the future, every company will be dealing with tokens on a daily basis. We've just seen in the last presentation how they could be buying large data sets. They could also be storing files with Filecoin or smart contracts with Ethereum. Well, this raises a lot of questions. How are we going to pay capital gains tax? You need to keep track of when you bought the token and when you sold the token. What if it's a multi-sig wallet and you only have one of the two required private keys to send that money? Do you really own this asset, or do you not? And finally, we can talk about things like money locked in smart contracts and time-locked cryptocurrencies. Anyway, the point I'm making is there's going to be lots and lots of complicated accounting and auditing questions in the future, and no one has the answers yet, including us, but we want to work with regulators to set a standard to make it as easy as holding fiat for your business. Back in the early days of Bitcoin, there was a very strong anti-banking sentiment. And I mean, look at this little guy. He's like saying some binary, and he's attacking the bank. It's great. This is how people were, back in like 2012. And there was this idea that Bitcoin would completely destroy the need for banks. The Bitcoin blockchain does actually replicate an entire global financial system, requiring only the internet to work. And so if you have Bitcoin, we don't need banks anymore. Well, we didn't come to the same conclusion because the nation states that we have today have a monopoly on creating currency, and also they can control who gets to keep their currency, they can shut down your bank account, freeze your assets, and we don't see them giving that up very soon because it's a pretty good position to be in. And so the role of banks will definitely change. We might see a euro token, so all euros will be a cryptocurrency in the future. But ultimately, a bank is a company that's been given permission by the government to do certain things with people's money, to hold it, to invest it, and regardless of how our financial system will be in the future, there will always be a centralized authority that gives permissions to companies to do certain things. So in whatever form banks exist, they will still exist. And if you don't like that, you can move to Lieberland. If you want to live outside of the system, some people do, they close down their bank account, they just use a Bitwala card and a transfer service, and they say, I don't want to be connected with the bank because it's connected with the government, and that's bad. But after a while, you'll run into some problems. If you have a kid and you want to register its name, you need to work with the government. If you want to buy a house, you need a notary appointment. If you want to open a company, you need to get your articles of association. And so that in the future we will have something called a CAS, or Country as a Service. I coined that, you can use it. And we have some micronations springing up. So Lieberland, for example, is a very small island in between Croatia and Serbia, and their official language is English, their official currency is Bitcoin, and they are basically saying, we're going to set a legal jurisdiction where you can do all of the things you want with cryptocurrency and still have an okay quality of life. You can still have a passport which you can use to travel abroad. You can still open a business that's recognized by other countries. So this is how Liberland is looking in the future, maybe, with some flying cars. But maybe it's not the time to move there just yet, because this is how it really looks. And I heard from the president a while ago that this hut had actually been destroyed by the Croatian government, so they don't even have the hut anymore. But it could be the case in the future that we are able to switch our countries as easily as we are able to switch our internet service providers, and that we choose as individuals or as entrepreneurs to set up shop in a different country just because of the advantages they offer. So it's 2017 and we're doing an ICO. Our ICO is a little bit different. We've been running for 2 years and we have some pretty impressive growth. We've transferred over 55 million euros of our customers' money. We have investors. So TICA is the biggest investor in Germany. It's part state-owned. And we have Digital Currency Group, which is the biggest or the leading investor of cryptocurrency projects in the world. And we have Alstein, which is the investment branch of the Carsten Maschmeyer family. Our investors include Max from Lisk, Stefan from Gnosis, and legal and banking knowledge. And finally, the thing that makes us different is that we are doing an equity token. So this means that owning our token will represent ownership in the underlying company. And the next presentation by Neufund is going to go into this topic in a lot of detail. So thank you very much. We're Bitwala, and I'll take the questions. Sure. So the question was, what does BaFin think of our efforts to combine banking with cryptocurrency? Is that okay? So in a white paper, it says that we're going to create our own bank. Yes, we will do that with the right funding in the future, because being your own bank is very complicated. And so the first step is to work with a partner bank. And so we're close to closing a deal with a German partner bank, which would allow us to provide fully insured, licensed SEPA bank accounts.
How are you doing your equity token?
That's a very good question. Full stop.
What's the legal status of your company right now? I mean, is it an Aktiengesellschaft, this sort of thing, or a GmbH? And what rights will that equity token actually represent? Will it give me, as an investor, right to determine senior management, for example, or a share of your annual profits, for example?
So currently we are a German GmbH. With regards to the equity token, governance is something that we want to build in. And in the future, it will be the case that an equity token will allow you to vote on certain procedures, and that will be legally binding. But currently, that is a little bit of a moonshot, and there's no way of doing it in such a way that it could comply with an existing legal structure. So you had the DAO, for example, which had governance built in, and it ended up being a nightmare, but it was kind of a good idea. I mean, tokenization allows governance inside of the crypto space, but eventually it always has to be linked to something in the legal space. And I don't think anyone's really solved this gap between it yet. And that's something that we'll look into. If our tokens don't have governance when they're launched, then they will hopefully have governance in the future.
How much money you want to raise in the ICO, and how many tokens will be distributed and keep on hold?
I can't comment on how many tokens will be kept, but we want to give out the vast majority to our investors. And how much we want to raise, I mean, I think this is a really, really good time to raise money because there is so much money in the system, and it might be the case that in 2019 you can't do an ICO like that you can do today. And so internally we want to raise a good chunk of money now because we feel like this opportunity might be our last. So I would say like 50 million would be nice. The total spread of the tokens? I mean, honestly, I think that's relatively arbitrary. You had one coin that was just one token, yeah, we will pick a number, but I don't think it matters. I mean, I think you just need to come up with a number that's understandable by people, and we will probably try and avoid decimals.
You're going to go to exchanges. We'll apply this token to exchange.
I mean, that's not our decision to make. We hope that we will be listed on exchanges.
I've been hearing there's some troubles with WaveQuest for the cards. Is that true? Can you comment on that?
Yeah. So WaveCrest is our card provider. They're the card provider of nearly every cryptocurrency card in the space. They get their cards from Visa Europe, and Visa recently merged. And after this merged, it turns out that we couldn't, the WaveCrest could no longer issue cards to as many countries as they previously could. So that's where you have a lot of crypto debit cards now being limited and accounts being shut down, which is really unfortunate. 10x was a really famous ICO that raised a lot of money just doing a debit card, and they had the same problem after promising everyone that, yeah, everyone can get a card. And so it's affecting the whole industry. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, we are subservient to the card providers. It's out of the scope of Bitwala or most startups in the country to create a new MasterCard and a new Visa. In the future, that might be the case if we see the restrictions of these monoliths being so big. But right now, if we want to offer people a debit card, we need to play by their rules.
So do you think it would affect your business?
It already has. Yeah, I mean, we could previously offer cards to a lot more countries in the world, and we had to change that a month ago.
So can you just explain to me what do you want in return for that equity token? Do you want euros, or do you want bitcoins, or any other sort of real-world currency, or what actually is it that you want?
Probably we will be accepting at least 5 major cryptocurrencies, and then we will cash them out ourselves into euro. If there's people who want to invest large amounts of euro, then we can probably accommodate them. Yeah, it depends exactly how we want to do it and what the demand is. But it's not so much of a problem to take people's money, to be honest.
Behind the fact to run the ICO, that I fully understand, which one is the use case of your token? So technically, I can pay your service utilizing the Ether or Bitcoin. Why I should have a token and utilize it?
So I'm going to give the same answer as Bruce here, which is I'd love to tell you, but our lawyers have advised us to not say anything until we have a legal prospectus. And so I'm afraid we're just now going to have to be patient. Sign up to the mailing list at vision.bitwala.com, and you'll get the information as soon as we can give it out.
So you said at Bitwala I can exchange between fiat and crypto, that's right?
So currently we are the leading provider in Europe for crypto to fiat services. And once we get our partner banking license, then we can do it both ways and provide a really nice abstraction where you can trade euro to Bitcoin. You can choose to receive 50% of your salary in Bitcoin, 25% in Ethereum, and the rest in euro.
Okay, then I have 2 questions. First of all, will you do also other currencies than Bitcoin? And also, where are you getting the exchange rate from?
So we accept other currencies other than Bitcoin via Shapeshift, which is a point-of-sale conversion. And we will start to accept more currencies natively, probably Ethereum and ERC20 tokens. And, sorry, the second question?
The transfer rate, fiat, Bitcoin.
So we work with a number of payment service providers, like BitPay, like Qubits, and we also interface directly with the exchanges. So we try and give the customer the best price. And this in our white paper, actually, you can see that our rates are really competitive, actually the best for our topic of our debit card compared to our competitors. So we try and be as transparent as possible in that regard.